beings. I'm here again in this beautiful spot. It's the perfect weather, the sea is calm. It's beautiful. And the last time that I did a video, I talked a little bit about my journey in the last couple of months that I went through with the cancer diagnosis. And yeah, we are now fasting forward, and I can sense that my body is getting back into balance and harmony. And I kept on hearing less is more, because I was still trying to kind of like, I was in this still kind of shock in a way, and I was kind of like, oh, I need to do everything now to bring back health in my body and balance. And so I was like, oh, what should I do? I should do this nutrition, these things, this, movement, sleep, and these are important things, but it became too much controlled. And so I really got invited more and more in my relationship with God, and really trusting God in everything, and that it's not in my hands, it's really in God's hands, and that I can just give it back. And I have been really developing more and more an intimate relationship with God in these last months. I already felt a huge shift happening last year, where I could really sense that everything that I, on my spiritual path that I've been very much invested in, I was very much devoted to better myself, to come closer to God in a sense. But it was, when I'm looking back, all of the things was still from a sense of I need to come closer to God, or I need to not necessarily I need to, but like I was like, I don't want that sense of separation in my life. I want to come closer to that sense of oneness. And so everything that was standing in the way of that, I wanted to, kind of like face that. And now I am just like dropping everything that I was kind of chasing in a sense, like a certain type of frequency, vibration, like, oh yeah, because when we are in a higher vibration, then we are more closer to God, and whatever else that I was like kind of like wanting. And there's nothing necessarily bad in that longing itself, but it's the way that I actually dealt with it, how I pursue it. And now, as I have also been sharing a little bit about my changes in the relationship with God, and how I went from very abstract kind of way of relating to God through frequency, vibration, consciousness, source, all these kind of naming that is very impersonal in a sense, um, suddenly I am now praying to the Father. And Father, in a sense, to me, is not necessarily like male or female. It is really a relationship. Like when you speak to the Father, then you speak in relationship. There's suddenly a relationship. I'm the daughter of God. I'm a child of God, and I say, Father, help me to let go everything that I want to control in my life, and to let you choose, and whatever that I need in my life, that it comes from you. And I started to really get more and more into that kind of relationship, and also from reading more and more into the Bible, and investigating more about, the accuracy also of the scriptures, and especially the Gospels also, like they really pull me a lot. They speak a lot about Jesus's life, and I was always like kind of pushing that away, because religion in many ways felt very dominating, controlling, very limiting in so many ways. And that wasn't me. I was like, no, nobody can, put that onto me, and, suddenly this and these rules and everything, like, there were things that just didn't make sense to me at all. And so I always pushed that away. And I even questioned the reliability of the Bible. And so when I actually started to investigate more and listen to historians and scholars, and actually now the story of Jesus became actually much more sense. Like, it was not a myth anymore to me. It was not just a mirror. Jesus was not just a teacher. He was really embodying God on earth. And he was the only person on this whole planet ever lived without sin. And so, even though I was like into these kind of enlightened masters, and that I was thinking that Jesus was one of those enlightened masters, and yet I can see that huge distinction, actually, that Jesus brought something that nobody else ever brought here on earth. And that changed everything for me. Like, my whole relationship to God and to Jesus, Yeshua in Hebrew, that's like how we would really say it, because he has a Hebrew name, so Yeshua. I feel like in every way, everything just makes sense to me. And 11 years ago, I went to Jerusalem, and I had this intense experience walking the Via Dolorosa, where Jesus walked with his cross and then got crucified. And I don't know, but I wasn't really related to Jesus in that way that I am now. And I didn't know what was happening with me, but I felt the pain that he went through. And I was like, why am I feeling this? I was crying, I was on my knees, I was like, how is this possible? Did he really experience that? And why am I experiencing this? Because I still didn't really fully believe the story of Jesus in that. It was still kind of a myth to me. And so it was strange that I actually felt in so many ways in my body as if I was there. in that time, 2000 years ago, when he walked that path with his cross. It was really such an intense moment, and I couldn't, I couldn't place it. Even after, I was like, what did I just experience? Like, I never could understand. And now I'm starting to see all these things that happened, that came to me, visions and dreams of Jesus that came to me. Oh my God, I suddenly realized, like, okay, now I understand. He came in a vision the first time in my life when I was in Calcutta, and I was sitting in meditation in front of a mirror, and he showed up in the mirror, and I was like, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, kind of like rubbing my eyes, like, wow, am I just hallucinating here? Am I fantasizing something? But I didn't had any kind of like relationship with Jesus in any sense. So I was like, huh? Like, why is Jesus coming here? Like, and I was like, in a way, in a kind of trance. Like, it was not a very clear picture, but it was like very fuzzy, but it was undeniably Jesus. It was undeniably Christ showing up in front of me, and I just like, all that I could do was really just like surrender to it and softening in that. And then it kind of vanished it away, like maybe after 5 minutes, but it took quite a long time for the feeling. And that was my first kind of like feeling Yeshua really close. And yet I couldn't still place it. I was like, who is he? Like, who is he really? I had no idea. And then he came. That was my biggest vision ever, and it was so significant to me. I felt so deeply, touched. So that vision was like as if I was in heaven with Jesus. And at that time I saw it more like a like I was, having a glimpse of my life before this one, and I was in a different planet, and I was on a water planet because I was in the water, and I was like a water being that was playing in the water. And then Yeshua came, and he came to me, and he said, it's time to go back to earth. And I said, and I was like, kind of like, when he said it, I knew what was coming, and I was not pleased. I was like, oh, I was so good here. And because now I can look back and see that vision, like, yeah, I was really in heaven with Yeshua, and he already showed me basically a glimpse of how it is in heaven. It was pure joy. It was pure synchronicity. It was so much love. There was so much expansion, light, and it was just like incredible. And then, he giving me the message that I need to go back to earth, and he said, show the people who you are. And I was like, oh, the people need you. And I had no idea. I was like, okay, I interpret that as like, oh, I have to find out first who I am, and then show the people who I am. So I went on this search of who am I, and that began in Buddhism and Zen and Taoism and Dzogchen and the rainbow body and just like energy work and all these kind of things, light language. And light language also makes sense to me in a very biblical sense also. But I will talk about that later. Just go back into, what I was saying about the vision. And so I saw myself basically then going to earth. And it was like this huge contrast from heaven and earth. It was like, yeah, not easy. And I have been, experiencing earth also not as easy. And so that vision, like, why Yeshua? Why Yeshua in heaven? When we think about heaven, okay, it could be one of the prophets, one of the angels, one of, like some people say, no, he's just a prophet, no, he's just a, he comes from our Archangel Michael, or, what if he is God? What if he is what he really claimed to be when he was speaking about I am? Because Yahweh, the name of God, I am, nobody ever said that. He claimed that for himself. He said, I am. And so, and many other verses in the Bible that actually point towards that he is the beginning and the end and the last, or something. I cannot remember what it was, but just like I've been just kind of like puzzling and figuring out all the things that I've experienced before, and if that also made sense in a biblical sense, and it all falls just into place. And I get it now. Like even the golden Naya, I spoke about this, golden dolphin that came and sat inside my heart. I was baptized. I was reborn again. That was a moment in 2018 when I was in the dark room. And now I see that the golden Naya, the golden dolphin, is a symbol of the Holy Spirit. I even had these words coming to me that the golden Naya is the spirit of freedom. In scriptures, it is said that the Holy Spirit is the spirit of liberation. It's like, and with that vision that I had in the dark room, being in the water and like cleansed, like I was being healed, I was being reborn, and after that my journey became really wild. Like, okay, like I could sense that was like a shift in my spiritual path that was huge, and I needed to face many kind of not so nice things, within myself. And it was very confronting, and I feel like there is a completion now coming, or it is actually now that is completed. Like I needed to go through, since that I was baptized and was blessed with the Holy Spirit, with the golden Naya. That was the symbol. I needed to go through that journey of deep purification, and the cancer was one of the kind of like ripple effects of all these kind of things that needed to be seen in right in my face. And it's not to say that I'm finished. I'm not. It's never finished. But here my journey starts with God, in relationship with God for the first time, where I really feel so humbled, like I cannot carry this on my own. I have carried so much myself that I thought, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need fix this and be better in this, and I was very criticizing about myself, and like, no, I can do better. I have too much ego still. There's too much of this still, and like, but what if I'm never going to be, like enlightened or perfect in that sense, in the way that I would want it to? And so I just felt like, stop it, stop control, stop carrying it all by yourself. This is not bringing you closer to God. And this relationship that I have now with Yeshua, with God, yes, and I could say like I am Christian in that sense, fully Christian, and yet I'm also not placing myself in any kind of denomination. Like it's very hard for me to kind of like find really like the balance of where religion starts to become like really dogmatic and rigid, and where it still stays very open and very humble, and still learning, and not saying, well, I have the truth, and like and you go to hell because you are wrong, and like this kind of things. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be that kind of person. But I am a follower of Christ, fully. I don't see him anymore as just a teacher, just a prophet, a, whatever else people are saying about him, enlightened master. To me, he was God, embodying God here on earth. And sometimes, people say, no, there's no Trinity. The Trinity is indoctrinated by religion. And I looked into that deeply, really deeply, and very openly and completely out of religious kind of, because I don't care really what they say. So I went into that, and I really saw exactly, like, again, like, I met Jesus. I have seen him in heaven. He was presenting God. The Holy Spirit, also very much alive. And they are all, these three, Yahweh, Father, Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit, they are connected. It's like because we are body, mind, and spirit, that doesn't mean that these are separate. They are one. Body, mind, and spirit. It's still me. I'm not only the body, I'm not only the mind, I'm not only the spirit. I'm three. I am three of them. Same when we say God. God is the Father, is Yeshua, and is, well, the Son, they say, and is the Holy Spirit. It is God together. And so it totally makes sense to me, at least to me. Anybody can make out for their own what that means for them, who Yeshua is. But I really do invite you to investigate Yeshua. Like, who was Jesus? Really? Who was he? And maybe you have believed in Jesus in some ways, in your way, like I did. in some ways I believed in Jesus. I knew that he, you know, like he came to teach me, but I saw him like as a mirror of Christ consciousness. That's how I saw him. And he is still an example for me. You know, I'm still, you know, asking also Jesus, like, you know, how can I do this better in my life? How would he have done it? You know, there's so many things. And I got confused, you know, by reading Mary Magdalene, the book of Mary Magdalene, and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and the Gospel of Thomas, and, you know, where it kind of like is back to ourselves, like it is here, you know, like everything is inside you. You are, you know, divine. You are the Christ consciousness. You have to just awaken into it. And this is something that I mean, I lived that. I have gone into that fully. And I can really say, no, we are not God. We are a drop in the ocean. We are not the ocean. And so, yes, we can realize that we are part of God's creation. Yes, we are. We are made in His image. We are part of His creation, but we are not God. And so that's such a big difference for me. And so also how I am navigating my spiritual path, because that actually, that kind of like, I am actually divine, but I am, you know, there's divinity within me, but there is brokenness, there is complete mess, because I'm human. You know, we have sinned. We are sinners. We all are. So we cannot escape that. And so it doesn't make any sense that we are trying to become sinless without sin. Like, no. But that's what I was like believing, like, yeah, but if I am divine, then I would not have all these kind of things. That doesn't make any sense. And now, yes, there's divinity flowing through me, and I am completely human. And so I can relax. I don't have to, like, you know, like be God and have to carry all of that. No, I can just I don't have to chase the awakening and more awareness and more enlightenment and all that. Like, no. Actually, yes, it is beautiful to be aware, but the awareness comes by you surrendering to God, by you becoming humble. And that is what creates that awareness and that openness and that relationship and intimacy with God. Not that person that, you know, like has to do everything. Like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to... Like, wow, that moment when that drops, it's such freedom. Such freedom. And to me, it's so much more appealing to have a true relationship and see God as personal, as the Father. And please, I also thought, like, why the Father? Why not the Mother? Why it's not Mother? Why is the feminine left out? And again, I also got into that, like, that doesn't make any sense. The God is feminine and masculine. It's both. It is beyond that. So why the Father? The Father is because that's from a human perspective, we can then relate, because we are relational beings. And so we need that. We cannot just say masculine and feminine oneness, and that's very abstract. It's beautiful. It's so, like, that was a little spider that go in front of the camera. It's like beautiful, abstract kind of like geometry, and it feels so expansive, and yet we are relational beings. So it is so, to me, like, oh, my being is so much more fulfilled. You see that little spider there on the rock? Is so much more fulfilled, because now that part of me, that human part of me that is longing for intimacy, for relationship, is being fulfilled in this way. And I didn't have that when everything was just abstract, when God was just consciousness, when God was just like, I don't know, didn't had any name. It was just, so wow. So this has, definitely become a big new kind of like spiritual direction for me, and it is unfolding really deeper and deeper each day. And I wanted to share this with you today. I also share this on my Substack. I started to write more, and I'm also speaking in audio. So I'm reading the pieces that I write, and then I read them, so you can listen them in audio as well, like a post, like when you listen to Spotify or something, you can listen to that on Substack as well, if you are not so much of a reader. But oops. Are we still okay? The phone fell. So yeah, so you can look into that, and I would love to see you also on my Substack, but I will be also, of course, here, but maybe less frequent. So my Substack is a little bit more frequent posts. So if you want to, be more, together reflecting on some things, and sharing and commenting maybe on where you are on your journey. And I know that a lot of people that are here on my YouTube channel are, a lot of them are very much into the New Age spirituality and into light language and all these kind of things. Light language, I will talk about that another time, because that's a really interesting one actually. But yeah, so I would love, for you to go on this journey with me, and see, maybe it doesn't resonate with you, and that's fine too. You can always unsubscribe if you want, but but I love everyone, it doesn't matter which spiritual direction, which spiritual path that you choose. I respect all of them, and I would never, say, oh, you're on the wrong path or anything like that, which a lot of Christians would say, and I'm just sharing my heart here, and that's all for now. It's so beautiful here, these little flowers. It's